Sorry I'm a little late with this. I got hurt late in the week. I was able to finish the paper, but I wasn't able to complete this as I wanted to. Uh, so I'm a little groggy because of the meds, but doing all right. This is my mini defense for my paper. I am MJ Schwab. My master's degree is from Liberty University. I'm currently a PhD history student at Liberty University. I work at an outdoor museum called Pioneer Living History Museum. Uh, haven't been doing much lately. They haven't gotten things back into the swing of things yet, but we will. Also work in the local library. I miss reading to the littles, but I'm assuming they'll come back eventually as well. And we're handing out books, order them online, and so we're starting to work with high school students now as well, now that they've come back to the physical location. As for my subject, Viking geographic and archaeological history, as it pertains to lands traveled west of Greenland. Um, I think some other of my classmates were a little bit alarmed at the scope of my uh, this paper, and even the dissertation, which this will be a chapter of. And I was too. And but the Viking Age interests me, and I think most people think of it as a European study, or North Atlantic anyway, but it's very much so a North American study. I think when I came into this, the whole idea was, uh, maybe finding Vinland. I know I'm not personally the one who's going to find Vinland, but maybe I could be. Certainly a team, maybe that I could be a part of. And I think that archaeological and geographical data is very important in finding that. But as I continued on, what I found was that while Vinland is still an interesting story, and it's one that needs to be told, um, being why I'm interested and why it should be studied, because not enough in the North American theater of where they were has been studied, and I think more needs to be done. Uh, I think a lot of times, a lot's been done in Europe, and it continues to be being done. Archaeological data, DNA, and a lot of neat things have been found out lately. But the interesting story has always been Vinland. But lately, and what I've found is the real interesting story has been the archaeological digs of the past, especially 5 years. But even the early ones of the 1960s, out of the euphoria of Lansdowne Meadow, the 60s, 70s, and 80s, maybe even into the 90s, was fairly exciting too. Certainly the 60s and 70s were very interesting for the archaeological data on really just a lot of times Newfoundland, but then very heavily in on Baffin Island, Ellesmere Island, points west of there on the continent. Nunavut. Today it's Nunavut. Uh, and I think that what the interesting story is now is what happened. A lot of people know about the missing Greenland colony, but they don't split it up into the three settlements. Of course, we know about the middle settlement. They just diffused into the two colonies, into the two other settlements, I should say. But the eastern settlement, I think, is fairly easy to understand what happened there. But the western settlement, those people just disappeared. Ivar Bardson came and looking for them in 1342 and found the structures fine. They had torn down the church. The farms were fine, but the animals were still there. And he blamed the Thule culture. But the problem there is they would have taken the animals. So, and what the archaeological digs are telling us now on Baffin Island is that there was a lot more Norse presence there, and that they stayed for a long time. Ellesmere Island, northern Labrador as well. And so uh, this evidence is all coming from, of course, textual and the philosophical, which I actually think is more geographical, to explain what the Vikings were doing and why they were doing it. Um, for instance, geographically speaking, they would have wanted to settle someplace that has access to the sea, but also protection from it. That's why the fjords are so important. But down rivers as well. Think of St. Lawrence. Think of all the fjords, Baffin Island, Greenland, everything that would have interested them. The main evidence that was found is, of course, the big change is Baffin Island, especially Baffin Island, but also northern Labrador as well, where they're finding these sites that they thought were fishing sites are now not temporary fishing sites. They were permanent, or at least semi-permanent. And there was cultural exchange, too, between mostly the Dorset and the Vikings. But sometimes the dual culture were involved as well. The main new question raised is because of this archaeological data, why were they, is Vinland further north? I don't think that's the case, but, what the question raised basically is, did the Western settlement people have a lot to do with this settlement on Baffin Island? And so I think this is where the scholarship's going to continue. So thank you.